Alan Bond, part of the Bluegrass Farms in the Bethesda community, and we run 150 head of mama cows. We run a cow-calf operation, and which means we'll raise the calves until around 600-700 pounds, and then we'll sell the calves off. We will keep about 20 replacement heifers to keep our herd right around the 150 mark that we'd like to have. The farm here is the original Bluegrass Farm homestead. It would be, with my daughters and my nephews, it would be a 6th generation farm for them. We just run it as a family operation, and it's just the way and it's very nice and therapeutic. My brother and my father, we all have jobs away from the farm, and we do a lot of evenings, a lot of weekends, and still being able to make it productive at the same time. I have my wife, Mary Jo, and my 2 daughters, Samantha and Jordan. I have a brother, Robert, who has 3 sons, Preston, Will, and Connor, and his wife, Maureen. Then my dad is Charles Bond, and my mother is Carol Bond. From what I understand from the history is half the house was, the house was constructed during Reconstruction after the Civil War. And it started out as a 1-room log cabin, and then they built onto it the second year and had a breezeway that kind of went through, which is basically the front door of the house. And so these 2 rooms are log rooms, and then they built onto the back and then built the upper levels as the years went on. When we remodeled the back side of the house, 2004. Yeah, 2004 we remodeled, and we found, when we cleared off the logs, we refurbished the original logs to bring the luster back in them, but we found horsehair and rock, and it's amazing what they used to chink the stuff back then, but it was still there. And but we kind of cleaned them up and had some newer material used besides horsehair and mud. Probably my specialty is probably equipment maintenance and equipment operations. It's plus taking care of the feeding of all the animals. We custom mix our own feed on site, so I take care of that. My brother and nephews, when it comes time to working cattle, they usually take care of that part. When it's time to cut and bale hay in the spring, it's kind of a all hands on deck moment, and everybody jumps in, and we spend about 2 weeks running wide open. It's a lot of late nights those weeks, but it's not too many of them. And everybody kind of has their own jobs that they're good at, and everybody pitches in and makes it happen. We work with keeping up with the genetics to make the beef cattle more efficient to go to market. One of the good things about having the girls in the 4-H livestock program is when we take them to the state show, we get feedback on the animals that we take, because they'll do ultrasounds and they'll weigh them, and it's kind of fun to see, how our meat grades out compared to everything else that we do. and we use that information that we get back from that to improve on what we have. The main farm is roughly 150 acres, which a good portion of it is hill and rock. There is some flat land that we do run hay crop on. We have 2 ponds that we put on the place that the hills provide really good runoff to fill those ponds in the spring and the winter. So it takes care of watering our animals through the summers. We try to utilize every building we have for something. Freestall barn that when we had the dairy, cows would lay down in that freestall barn or eat silage. Now it's kind of a equipment shed and a place to store or keep animals that we're working that need a place to stay that we can sort out and make for easy loading and unloading for whether we're going to the market with them or taking them to a vet, or need a place that they can heal up or get over any illness or ailments that they may have. We have the original dairy barn that's part of the farm, and the dairy barn that my dad and uncle built probably the early 70s, and we had it full operation up until probably 1998. Now it's just an empty barn right now. We utilize the old stables for calf barn and storing hay.
Yeah. Bluegrass Farms and one we call Bond Farm is really Grigsby Farm. But Bluegrass Farm was where the dairy was. That's where more of the activity of the farming was, as far as had sheep, hogs, poultry, dairy, beef, and all there. Where the Bond Farm or the Grigsby Farm where we live today was a smaller farm, where it belonged to my grandmother and then my grandfather. They owned that farm, and this is where we live today. And it's only today we only run beef cattle here and cut hay on this farm. And they raised tobacco and milked cows, but it hadn't been it wasn't a modern farm like Bluegrass Farms was. Our farm is hill land, and it's not designed for raising corn, soybeans, and compared to farms and level land and in turn we had dairy, but now we've got beef, and it's desirable as far as utilizing the pasture for the beef cattle and raise hay and we raise alfalfa hay and grass hay. The way we got to this farm from that farm was my brother, he and I were operating together until '93, and he got married, and so he needed a house to live in when he got married. So we were living there on the farm, and it belonged to us together. So I bought 15 acres where we live here from my mother, and we built a house here, and he moved into that house. And then later on, he moved to another farm that we'd acquired, and therefore my son moved in up there when he got married. So that's how we ended up getting here. And I stayed here with my grandparents when there's a 100-acre farm here that belongs to them. And I stayed here a lot when I was up until I was 10 or 12 years old, stayed on that farm. Today your farms are more specialized than they were back when I was a boy in the 50s and 60s. Then it was more of a general farms where you had a little of everything: tobacco, corn, wheat, sheep, hogs, goats, a lot of it. Today we're more specialized as far if it's a grain farm, or if it's a dairy farm, or if it's a beef farm. You don't have as many different enterprises today as you had then. Oh, the Business Act, I think that's the biggest thing as far as your equipment, get more equipment. It's more expensive, but you've seen it going more specialized compared to before when it was, and a lot of the farms before were a way of life back, and today it's more of a business of the farming today compared to at that period of time. They all, at that time, they'd have a few hogs to kill, raise a big garden, chickens for eggs, and where today you buy those things at the grocery and you specialize in one thing, either beef or dairy. It's the 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and plan for the future, what you're going to do tomorrow. Think about today, what you're going to do tomorrow, and expand for the future as far as buying and expanding and increasing the size of the farm, the size of the operation. And this is probably the most important part of it. Well, it's been a way of life for the entire life. It's been a good life. Can't complain. It may not have been the most prosperous at times, but it's been good. It's kept us busy and kept food on the table and other things that are enjoyable for life because of farming.